Welcome to In the House. And I'm in the house in about 3 weeks here. These seats behind me will be filled with folks like my next guest, Representative Stephen Ross from Alamance County, representing District 63. Representative Ross, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing good. I hope you had a good Easter. It's Easter Monday. I have to tell you this. I grew up in South Carolina, and so we always celebrated Good Friday. And when I moved to North Carolina, people were taking off work left and right on Easter Monday. I'd never heard of such a thing. Now they don't do that so much as far as an officially recognized holiday. But judging on the traffic coming to work this morning, I think a lot of people still taking Easter Monday off because it wasn't near as heavily much traffic as there normally is.
It was driving into Raleigh earlier. I said, I can't believe there's this much traffic, at this time of day.
Yeah.
But, growing up, it was always Easter Monday. That was the
Yeah.
big holiday. And some of us are at a stage where we have a hard time shaking that. We still feel like it should be a holiday. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Well, I know some folks that are probably celebrating long into last night and into the day as the Wolfpack fans, both the men and the women, going to the Final Four in the basketball. It's an amazing, remarkable thing, and we got to tip our hat to them. I'm a Tar Heel fan, and so I'd rather Carolina be there. But I tell you what, both the Wolfpack men and women are doing a phenomenal job. So
well, we're Wolf Packers,
are
and
you?
we are, and so we were extremely pleased with the game.
Yeah.
And we're just crossing our fingers and rooting to get through the next one. Purdue will be tough.
Yeah.
I watched them play. They're a good team.
Well, you know
Um,
what? Everybody has been going to be tough, and yet State has handled them. And I mean, they've looked good doing it. So,
yeah,
uh,
I'm still in shock at what they did to Duke last night.
yeah, I know. Well, I could talk basketball with you for the next 30 minutes, but I think our listeners and viewers would rather hear some things that you have to say about your representing District 63. And as I was driving in, I started thinking about Alamance County, and it occurred to me that most of my understanding of Alamance County is a stretch of I-40 from Chapel Hill to Greensboro going through there. I've driven up and down that road. I can't even tell you how many times in my life, but I don't really know that much about Alamance County, except they've got some nice economic development that has taken place, Honda and LabCorp. You can see those. But tell me about your district. If I were to get off of that stretch of I-40 there and I-85, tell me what's going on that really makes Alamance County special.
Well, I was going to say you left a little piece out when you talked about Interstate 40, but you just corrected that. Um, I think one of the things that makes it unique and one of the things that contributes to a lot of traffic is the fact that when you get to the Alamance County line, Interstate 85 and Interstate 40 merge together as one highway. And then when you get to Greensboro, they split apart again.
That's right.
So for Alamance County's purposes, it is the section of two interstate highways that come together. Probably one report I read said it was the most heavily traveled piece of road in North Carolina.
Wow.
And that you could certainly say that today as I came through the traffic. It's 4 lanes on each side and it's always full. But I think the other critical thing for us in Alamance County is we're literally the link between the triangle and the triad. If you go to where the interstate splits back out in Orange County, you're in the triangle. If you go over to Guilford County where it splits again, you're in the triad.
Yeah.
And so that little piece or the little link in the middle is Alamance County. And it's brought a tremendous amount of opportunity to Alamance County. I know, when I was mayor back in around 2005, I remember telling my city council, I said, everybody's talking about economic development. With these two interstates coming together and coming through Alamance County, I said, you almost could make a case that you're going to grow by default because that brings so much traffic. That's one of the reasons why you just read recently that Bucky's is going to put their first um, location in North Carolina. They're putting it right smack in the middle of Alamance County. There's a reason for that, and that's because of the traffic volume, the location. So many people coming north and south on 85 and east and west on 40 are going to pass by there every day. And so, uh, you know, you look at the traffic and you think, well, this is a problem, but then you think about what's causing the traffic and what it means for the county economically, and it's like, okay, this is what you get or what you have to put up with, to have that kind of growth.
You
But
know,
Alamance County is a really neat county. It's there's so many things in Alamance County, with starting on the Orange County side with Mebane and ending up on the Guilford County side with Burlington and everything in between.
have you given a lot of thought yet to Bucky's? That's an amazing uh, thing. There's one down in South Carolina that I go by when I go to Charleston occasionally, and I mean, there's nothing like it.
It it's hard to describe. People ask me all the time, "What's this Bucky's that I keep hearing about?" I didn't know originally when it first started looking at Alamance County. They gave me an opportunity to go down to Florence, South Carolina, to look at the one they have there. Uh, we're still kind of in shock over what we saw. I've never seen that many gas pumps in one location. It's incredible. And then the facility itself is like almost like a Walmart with gas pumps. It's just
Yeah,
that's the best way to
yeah,
describe it.
yeah, and a big beaver out front named Bucky.
Yeah. And people drive from they plan their trips. If they're coming down 85 from north going south, they'll plan their trips to stop there, or 40 going east to west. It's just we we're all waiting to see what's going to happen when when it's actually built. But
Yeah,
there is a lot of talk about it. But yeah, that's certainly not the only growth.
no.
If you look around there are massive uh, industry facilities going up all around in the same general vicinity. I toured that area over the end of last week, and sometimes I forget all the companies that are represented in those commerce parks that are there.
One thing I saw back the Bucky's, uh, they have a thing going around that has a graphic of their pay scales that they pay their employees. And what really stood out to me was car wash manager over six figures.
Yeah,
Car wash manager over six figures. And I thought, my goodness, uh, they're going to attract a lot of people wanting good, high paying jobs. Even the folks working inside are going to be very well paid. So I think
yeah.
Bucky's is going to be a positive.
Well, there's so many things that come with a Bucky's. One is the traffic. People will be coming into the area. They're going to drive right by Tanger Outlet to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and there are a lot of people that are going to want to turn around after they go to Bucky's, or even before they go to Bucky's. They're going to want to stop at Tanger Outlet, um, and so it's going to be a tremendous boom, for the economy there. Uh, but I think one of the things, and as you just alluded, is the fact they're going to pay so well,
Yeah.
and it's going to be over 200 jobs. So it's not a small outfit. It's a large group, and or a large company, I should say, and they do pay very well. People are already trying to look for ways to apply so that they
Yeah.
can work there. Um,
Um, when you think about, and I wanted to go back for a minute, you've been a city councilman and a mayor, and now you've been serving in the House. I believe this is your 6th year, or
Sixth term,
yeah,
sixth
term.
term.
So that would be your 12th year. How is it different to be in a chair that you're in now when you've still got those city council slash mayor responsibilities to a local area? But at the same time, you've got people coming to you saying, well, Representative Ross, we want to expand Medicaid, or we want to do this with abortion, or we want to do this with gambling, or we want to have medical marijuana. We want to do this and that and this and that and this. I mean, my goodness, you have to really be aware of and so many different things.
Well, I've always felt like that the 20 years that I spent on the city council and as mayor um, was a good training ground. I learned a great deal about the operation of the city. I was mayor in Burlington, which is a good size North Carolina city,
Oh yeah.
and was able to learn municipal governments from sort of the ground up. Uh, Sort of also, it kind of tied into what I studied in graduate school, which was public administration. Um, so coming to Raleigh was an adjustment because when you're a mayor on a city council, um, you're able to make decisions and you're able to move very fast. Uh, and I think sometimes we don't appreciate as mayors how fast you can move things. But when I came to Raleigh, I tried to tell them back home. I said it's sometimes trying to get something done that you could do really in a couple of weeks or a couple of months locally may take you an entire session, 2 years, or even two sessions. It's like turning a battleship. So there is a great deal of difference in the time frame and the complexity of how you're going to try to get something done. I was a mayor with 5 council members. You made decisions all the time and you moved just like that.
Yeah.
In the legislature, of course, you got 120 House members, 50 senators, and everybody seems to have a different opinion about everything. So it's a big difference.
I
But the issues are not that far different,
mhm.
other than when you get into things like Medicaid and so forth, because those are healthcare issues that typically a city or municipality would not be, uh, you know, working with or dealing with.
Right.
You would have to say maybe county commissioners to some degree, but through DHHS. But that's really it.
Um, Speaking of issues, uh, I remember I was shocked. I guess it was about 6 months ago. I was going through, and one of the things I do in my position is I'm constantly uh, feeding you guys the news and important newsworthy things so that you're up to speed at a moment's notice as to what's going on throughout our state. And I ran across a headline that said that China was buying up land in North Carolina, and come to find out they've been doing it all over the country. And our farmland has particularly been targeted. And this is something that, as a citizen, I was like, whoa, what in the world? But you have taken on the issue of land preservation that I'd like for you to talk about, because I think it's a tremendous uh, bill that you've got and sponsored.
Yeah, it's a critical issue. We learned during COVID that China had a great deal of control over the manufacturing of our medication, and that became a problem. It's a very hard problem to fix once it happens. Um, so I became aware over the last couple of years that China has been buying up farmland and they've been buying up other resources in North Carolina. And it's not just China. There's a lot of other factors involved, but our farmland is disappearing right before our very eyes. I've seen numbers as much as 1,000 acres a day
Mm.
Now, it doesn't take long losing farmland at that rate to not have any farmland. And then the farmland that you do have left, the food sources are controlled by a foreign country. So we started looking at what can we do, and there are a number of things that we can do, but there are a lot of issues with um, family farms in North Carolina that would love to stay family farms, but they can't because of a number of issues like property taxes and encroachment by realtors and developers building, huge developments. And so, what the bill does is it creates a credit, a tax credit for the preservation of farmland, and it gives the family farm the opportunity to keep that farm in the family and have an opportunity to keep it as productive farmland rather than become some residential development or some commercial development. Um, we're using within the language of the bill, farmland is primary, but in addition to that, there's other conservation measures that are in the same bill, as well as military buffer zones. We have become concerned about some of the acquisition of land and control or land use around military zones. So we have a buffer, and it's included in this bill. So it covers military buffer zones, farmland, and any conservation easement to a conservancy or a state park, something like that. It's a very important bill. It's not going to totally solve the problem, but it's a great step in moving forward and trying to preserve some land. I'll give you a good example. I've got a dear friend who owns a farm with his brother.
Mm-hmm.
He and his brother own this. It's a huge farm, uh, but they have no children and they have no heirs. So as these two aging brothers, uh, as eventually one of them dies out, and then the other one takes over, and then when that something happens to that brother, that farmland is gone unless there's uh, a method or a tool that they can use to keep it and preserve it. And this bill gives them that opportunity to preserve it as farmland and get some compensation for it now, as opposed to having it go into, the location of this particular farm, it will go into development instantly, and then there's a large farm gone.
First of all, I'd like to say, listening you describe this bill, uh, to me, it's fascinating. Now, some people might not, you know, uh, have interest in this sort of thing, but that you would think of and that y'all thought of, okay, how do we preserve this farmland and using a tax credit so that they could be compensated now? In your example, that's tremendous. Uh, I know there are other things that are being done, forbidding, foreign entities from buying land or this or that. But what you're doing here is a very practical solution to a situation that is real. I mean, what you just described,
Yeah,
I'm sure, is not a singular instance. And
oh
so
no, that's
this bill is
just,
going to help a lot of people.
that's one of many. And that's it. To me, it is probably one of the most practical ways to preserve farmland. I
Yeah.
live in a county right now that's under tremendous pressure. We're losing farmland left and right. Just to our south, we have all the commercial development with, Toyota and Wolfspeed and all the others that are just within 5 miles of our border in our bordering county. And all of the southern part of our county is farmland.
Mm.
Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what's going to happen to that farmland when
Yeah.
Toyota and the others come online. I mean, there's already massive residential development going on. And farmers that I know in the southern part of the county are already being approached to sell their farm.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But um, as we grow as a state, we have to think about, we have a massive growth taking place with population and all the things that go with that population, development, new factories, new industries, and all the residential that goes with it. We have to start thinking ahead about, although this is great and we love it, and we love being number one in business and everything, we have to think about the pressure that puts on uh, our utilities, our infrastructure. Uh, but to me, just as important is what that does to our farmlands in our areas around military zones and things like that, where we've got to think about preserving some of that land. Once it's gone, it's gone.
It's gone. Yeah.
It's gone. And as my dad used to say, they don't make any more land.
I live in Johnston County, and it's, oh my gosh, you can't even drive out 5 minutes from your house where used to be pretty beautiful, farmland. And now, it's just big old developments. And I understand the need, but my goodness, what you are trying to accomplish to help preserve our North Carolina farmland is a real good thing. I don't want to cut you off on that, but I'm running, try to go about 22 minutes here, so I don't want to go too far over. And I wanted to ask you about your district specifically during I call it the off season, but during the interim here, right before y'all are about to go back into session for the short session, you've been talking to people, you've been out, you've been hearing what's on their mind. What is on people's minds is I'm sure Bucky's is on everybody's mind. But other than that, what are people saying that they are asking you about, Representative Ross?
Well, I think probably the biggest thing, number one thing I hear is what about this? What are we going to do with this traffic?
Mm-hmm.
The traffic has become almost unbearable. And to give you a couple of examples, I think it was Friday, I was going to take a shortcut. I was going to jump on the interstate and go from one exit down two exits to get to the Alamance Crossing shopping area. And as soon as I got to the interstate, I looked and I said, something's wrong, because the traffic, all four lanes were stopped.
Oh.
And of course, there was an accident. So I turned around and go back into Church Street, which is 70, and it was gridlock. Because what happens when they have an accident and they have to close the interstate, they divert traffic over to 70, which goes right through the middle of downtown Mebane, right through Haw River, and right through the middle of downtown Burlington.
Wow.
And it's, if you can imagine interstate traffic going through the center of the city like that, that's not designed as an interstate.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare. So I hear about that a lot. What are we going to do? And it's part of those growing pains I was talking about. We're going to have to figure out other traffic alternatives. Some of the secondary roads, I know DOT has a longer term plan, or maybe not even a longer term plan anymore, to widen Highway 70 in between Burlington and Greensboro, and also between, I think, Mebane and Durham, to alleviate some of the problems that we run into, when we have and I would say when we have an accident, it's almost every day now that there's an accident somewhere. The interstate gets closed all the time.
Yeah. And these
So I
are
hear a
real
lot.
problems. These are real challenges. And
Yeah. Hey,
we
so I
love
hear a lot about that. A lot about that.
we love the growth, as you say, but just like growing up, there's growing pains. And
Yeah.
one issue I know, also, we were talking beforehand, broadband. People want to get make sure they have that, and I know you've been working on that.
Yeah, that's I'm amazed, because in the 12 years I've been here, we've talked about broadband expansion. We've spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to get broadband, really everywhere.
Hmm.
Uh, and I really honestly, in the beginning, didn't think it would ever happen because you'd hear it over and over and over again. And in every biennium, there's no broadband,
Hmm.
um, or it's still not in the rural areas.
Right.
But I have noticed that as we uh, move to around present or the present time, we are beginning to see broadband running out in my area, highways like 49, 62, 61, 87. You're actually seeing fiber going into the ground,
Good.
which means that areas that connect will have broadband. So it's a long term process because it's so much fiber that you've got to put in the ground.
Yeah.
But I do see progress. It's happening. I actually got on fiber myself within the last year, and
Wow.
it's a great. I just never dreamed that internet could be so easy as when you do get on fiber.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so we're making progress there. Uh, and broadband is one. Water and sewer infrastructure is another. As we grow and we grow as fast as we're growing, we have we realize now that we might be getting out ahead of our capability. You know, excuse me. Our water and sewer resources are, in some places, taxed to the limit,
Yeah.
and that's very difficult to get out ahead of because of the permitting process and the time and the cost it takes to put it in the ground. So, we try, to be proactive in that area. Uh, I have a pretty good knowledge of how water and sewer works from my time as a mayor because we
Right.
we had a water and sewer system in Burlington that we worked very hard to make it very efficient, and
Hmm.
it still is.
Well, these are all things that people think about, and you are doing a really good job representing the folks in your district. I think you have a keen awareness of what people need, what people want, and you also have an understanding of economic development. And so I think that that is a good thing. As we wind up here, uh, I would like to say thank you for joining us. And you have mentioned your time as a councilman and mayor. There's a sense of building community, I think, that you learn when you're in those smaller government situations. Are you able to take that mindset with you to Raleigh and work in that regard?
Absolutely, it has really helped me, and I would have to say it's helped some of my colleagues because a lot of colleagues come to me and ask me questions about operations within a city that they may or a situation they may run into back in a city in their district. For me, I have loved the opportunity or love the, uh, I guess, um, being able to go back and sort of practice what you learned early on, even here in Raleigh, because we spend a lot of money on infrastructure here in Raleigh now,
Hmm.
and I understand the necessity of how critical that is to economic development. I stay in constant contact with my council members and my mayors and city managers in all the towns in my district. Usually talk with them sometimes weekly uh, to find out the status of where things are, what they need, discuss these issues that we're talking about growth, planning, um, infrastructure. And it's been a great. I have just a great relationship with Raleigh.
Well, that's good. That's really, really good. And uh, I think we're going to have to come back another time to delve into some other issues. But I want you to know I do appreciate your time today. This has been, to me, a very fascinating and interesting time that we've had together. So, Representative Ross from District 63 in Alamance County. Thank you very much for joining us here in the house.